Tucker Carlson interview, and I want to talk about toxicity in between people, toxic metaframing, which is a term I coined, and how it happened in the interview. So, and how you should react. There's several ways to react. So, right in the beginning, Putin says, "Is this a serious interview or is this an entertainment interview kind of thing?" And that's a toxic metaframe. It is basically Tucker Carlson was in a good mood during the interview. Obviously, he was going into it, with a good mood. It was very obvious. And Putin was pretty serious in the sense like he wasn't really feeling, it was obvious the way he was sitting in the chair, he was slouching. He wasn't really feeling that well. Um and he wasn't really, you know, happy. He wasn't really happy. He wasn't in his joy, whereas Tucker Carlson was. And so it starts with, are you is this a serious interview or is this entertainment? Okay, this is the toxic metaframe. And there's three ways to deal with toxic metaframers. The toxic metaframing is basically, I'm going to explain very shortly what it is so you understand it. You will find it in most interaction situations between people. So a toxic metaframe happens when one of the people is unhappy and in their sakral chakra, in their joy and sexuality, and they projected their unhappiness onto the other. Be like, I don't want you to be as happy as I am. I don't want you to be happy, more happy than I am. So I'm going to suppress your joy, your sexuality, in order for you to come down to my level. So I don't feel so inferior to you. This is basically what toxic metaframing is. So one of the people is feeling unhappy. They're not in their joy, not in their sexuality. That's is in the sacral chakra, and they're like putting someone else in their place. Kind of, they're pushing them down in their energy field because they are extremely triggered by the joy the other person feels. And I'm telling you, when the interview started, when the interview started, Tucker Carlson was in a much better mood than Putin was. 100%. No doubt about it. Like, Tucker Carlson was in his joy. He was really looking forward. He was in a good mood. Putin was like slouching. He was like the way he was sitting, the way his demeanor was. Putin is not, and then that might be, partially Russian culture, of course, also, but Putin was not in a particularly happy mood. He wasn't in his joy. He wasn't in his sexuality. It was just like, and maybe also he has physical problems. Like, he had this problem with the leg and stuff. So maybe he has physical problems. And most people that have physical problems, if they don't know how to deal with it, become grumpy over time. So you notice that a lot with handicapped people. They become very grumpy over time, which is to most people legitimate, but it's not, it doesn't have to go this way. In any case, Putin wasn't happy. He wasn't in his joy, and Carlson was. And Putin was unhappy that Carlson was in his joy. And so he needed to put him in his place right from the start. That's why he toxic metaframed him. Is this a serious interview or is this entertainment? And then a little bit later, the same thing with the CIA. So basically, anytime Tucker Carlson coming into his joy, Putin would, say something mean to him, basically, like a true toxic metaframer. And I wouldn't be surprised the way he did it and how often he did it, that Putin is actually a toxic metaframer in general, that he's a narcissist. And most politicians are, so, it would be a big surprise. And you have three options. You literally have three options to deal with a toxic metaframer. Tucker Carlson had three options. One is to go into codependency, which is basically what he did in the interview. He accepted the toxic metaframes and accepted the lower position. He accepted, okay, I'm going to take it down a notch in my joy. And And that's how he was able to finish the interview without getting, personally offended. Um, the second option, which is the best option always, not sure if it's with Putin the best option, but it's usually the best option, is get up and get out. You don't have to sit there. And the fact that you accept the toxic metaframe from the other person is actually the exact opposite of self love. You're actually self hating yourself, and thereby by accepting the negative energy from the other person, you are self hating yourself by staying there. And the third option is over toxic metaframing, which is super dangerous with someone like Putin. So you would be like, uh, you're aren't you you could be like really hardcore and be like, aren't you too short to have a serious interview? Or something like this. He would completely flip and just kill you. And so over toxic metaframing is usually not the most spiritual thing. Dumb people over toxic metaframe a lot of times. So if a guy meets another guy at a bar and they're a little bit drunk and both are not in their joy and sexuality, one person to the other may be like, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? And then it just, escalates from there because they're over toxic metaframing each other. By the way, by the way, the source of all wars is toxic metaframing. Get this. The source of all wars, like literally all wars, is toxic metaframing. Let's take First World War by, with Franz Ferdinand. Um, the Serbs when they killed the 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 king or whatever. Um, it's a toxic metaframe to kill someone else, logically. But if the other person or the other people around them are not able to let it go and over toxic metaframe, they're like, if we're not supposed to live, you're not supposed to live. And then they go into revenge. So they're over toxic metaframing, basically. And that's where war starts. The only way to prevent war is to go away physically. In that sense, it would be like, okay, you killed them, you killed, the king, whatever, but we'll accept it and we'll go, ahead, and but we'll not over toxic metaframe, but we'll physically distance ourselves from, whatever at that point. um and thereby you evade war. You don't have to go into war. The Second World War, same thing. How did the Second World War start? With toxic metaframing. It was, the others are bad, we are good. It's toxic metaframing. It's always toxic metaframing that starts wars. Um, and once you understand toxic metaframing, you can avoid the narrative that politicians play on you to start a war. Be always careful about toxic metaframing. I learned that it's very fundamental in Russian culture to view smiling without anything truly joyful going on in your life to be weird, crazy. Seems like they associate misery with realness. Yes, I would agree with that. It's a cultural thing. And but you're still not supposed to toxic metaframe someone who's in their joy. If you don't want to be in their joy, don't be in your joy. But don't toxic metaframe someone else if they're in their joy. And that would probably relate a lot. I think the Russians and the Germans could have a lot of things in common in terms of like suppressing of the sacral chakra. The Spanish don't suppress their sacral chakra. Um, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was here presumptive to the Austrian. Oh, I wasn't sure that he was the here. I thought he was the king. I'm not very good in history. Franz Ferdinand was here presumptive to the Austrian. He would have been emperor of the Australian Empire if he wasn't assassinated, if the empire wasn't broken up. Uh, Anne Fender says, "Help me get over procrastination." I think procrastination. I'll get back to the other point about Franz Ferdinand, but with procrastination, You have to think about procrastination not as one word. I think you need to clearly define what you are feeling is procrastination. Because, for example, meditating and cocooning in a spiritual way wouldn't be procrastination. So, deferring doing something, it doesn't have to be a negative thing necessarily. I would say I would go so far that we usually procrastinate because we're attempting to do something that don't we don't really want to do. So if I would say, okay, that seems like a lack of flow. It seems like you want to get back into flow. So I would suggest first doing things that you really enjoy doing. Just keep on this, like I would follow Bashar and be like, follow your highest excitement, your highest joy, and just start doing things that are tremendously joyful for you at that very moment in time where you want to do them, and then you are in the flow, because the universe doesn't work in the sense like we assume that the universe works that if you do this or that you get this and that outcome, the kind of like causality, input output. I do this and I get that back. The absolute best things in life don't work like that. For example, I always thought I'm gonna make money in a certain way, and then I made money in a totally different way, which I never expected. So don't worry about procrastination. Think more on the lines of what gives me joy and do that. And if you do what gives you joy, then you're not gonna procrastinate, because why would you procrastinate like to that which gives you joy? So I think I would even drop the idea of procrastination altogether. I would replace it with the Bashar idea: follow your highest joy. I was born in the Philippines and grew up there in America. I've never been to Europe. I've heard that Germans have reputation for having undeveloped sense of humor. Yeah, they have a humor. They have stand-up comedians, but it's not that much. It's not really that funny. But yeah, it's a suppressed sacral chakra. I've heard that compared to the British and the Americans, the Germans have a much more simplistic style of humor. Well, the British have a very good humor. Um, the Germans, yeah, I know a lot of German comedians from back then, because there was a time when German comedians were very popular on TV, so many years ago. But it was okay. It wasn't, it's I would say Americans have a very vulgar humor. I think the best comedians are actually British comedians. Um, Czech comedians are also pretty good. But I think the British comedians are literally the best, and I think it's very much part of the culture. I remember every time I met people from the UK at different parties on Mallorca or something, they were super funny. But yeah, so procrastination can be solved by just following your highest joy and dropping the idea of procrastination as a word and as a concept. Just follow your highest joy. You're gonna be fine. And thanks for previous answer. How can I start simple chakra meditation? You want to start simple chakra meditation? Uh, I could make a video about this, but for everyone who's completely new to meditation, I would suggest to start with the bija mantras, because everybody can do them. And they go like they are bija mantras, but bija mantras, mother mantras. So it's or seed mantras. So there's like the basic ones are, there are many, but their basic ones are lum vam ram yum hum om mong, and then you have also but if you put in bija mantras in YouTube or whatever, and then you keep doing the singing, that you chant, you're doing the chanting, right? You're not just listening to it, but chant, and do each mantra for like a few minutes, 2 3 minutes. Lum lum, and then the second one, rum, and it will put your whole body in a complete different vibrational state. So I recommend this way to start with the mantras. And do it if you have joy. If it gives you joy, if you feel better afterwards, Do it. If you hate it, don't do it. And so with the Tucker Carlson, do you have opinions on Scandinavian women, German women, Polish women, French women, Italian women, Spanish women, British women, Irish women? Oh my God, yes, absolutely. So Irish women are fantastic. I've met a couple of Irish women. They're absolutely fantastic. I think they're great to have children with. I think Irish women are literally awesome. Unfortunately, I haven't met that many, and I don't want to go to Ireland. It's too cold. Scandinavian women. For me, too cold mostly. Kind of like not interesting enough. So I can't say. Of German women, I know a lot, and I would avoid them because they're too much in their mind. They're too much in their solar plexus also. Polish women are party women. I'm not sure they're so good for relationships, but they love living their life to the fullest. French women are fantastic. French women are fantastic if you don't catch a strong feminist. Because a lot of French women are feminists. That's like in their DNA. But if they're strong feminists, oof. But French women are fantastic because they're eloquent. I love French women. They're some of my most favorite. Italian women are loud. Oh my god, they're loud. If you're okay with being screamed at 3 a.m. in the morning, then take an Italian woman. Spanish women are brutally attractive, just like some Italian women, but you have to accept that they're not on par in terms of intelligence a lot of times. So if you like a simple woman, you can have a Spanish woman. Can be sometimes annoying. British women, oh my god, some of them dress so sexy. British women know how to be teasing. British women know how to be teasing. I like that. So yeah, I do have an opinion on all of the women. My most favorite would be probably Latinas, Japanese, and French. Irish women have the best accent. Oh yes, I had an Irish woman that lived with me. She was 24. I was 29, something like that, 30, and no, a little bit younger actually. I was younger. I was 26. I don't remember exactly, but somewhere around there. And I completely fell in love with her. She was awesome. She was a really great person, and she was tremendously beautiful. Have you ever visited India? I'm from India. Not yet, but I'm often thinking like an Indian woman would fit me well. I want to go to India. I definitely want to go to India. So yeah, to I just want to finish the Putin Tucker Carlson thing, and then I go back to the comments. So in a sense, if you are truly, truly, truly self loving and you make a choice for your best health, I would have gotten up from the interview and left. I don't know if with Putin, I don't know if that's easy to do, but at least what you can do is like finish the interview and then make an internal decision to never be available to Putin ever again, which he probably doesn't care, but it's a self-love thing. And later on, feel free to talk about American women. I'm also Filipino, so perhaps you should share opinion Filipino women. Oh, I have to say something about Filipino because Americans, I find America tremendously obnoxious. I find America, the way it is right now, the way people are tremendously obnoxious. Um, and I haven't felt that maybe in the 80s or 90s, or in the 90s, but now that nothing would ever bring me to the US. I'm like, I just, whoa, no. I find it tremendously horrible, the whole culture, um, the way it is. I have no connection with it. The only thing that I like is the openness in terms of like business and entrepreneurship. And that's about it. Filipinos, I think Filipinos, if you're looking for a true wife, I think a Filipino can be a very good choice. I have a friend who is 50, has a 30-year-old Filipino wife, and they're absolutely fantastic together. He says the whole relationship is like a warm foot bath. He would never ever have again a European wife. Feel free to talk about different kinds of women. So I can focus on the Putin Carlson subject. Yes, I often get decision paralysis, unable to clearly decide or get one side of the solution. I keep changing minds. Help. Well, that's what I said. Follow your joy. It's you see, listening to your heart space. If you relax and you listen to your heart space, just listening, not doing, but listening, it gives you a very clear, subtle energy hint on what you're supposed to do next. If you're confused, it's because you're using your mind to solve a situation rather than dropping everything, listening to your heart space, and then just letting things flow from the joy that you feel. Like if it gives you joy right now, if it gives you joy right now to make yourself a nice cup of coffee or tea or go jogging or whatever just gives you joy right now, just do it. I mean, listen to Bashar. Put in YouTube, put in Bashar, follow your highest excitement, and it's gonna change your life. Then you won't have any decision paralysis anymore. It's super easy. There's nothing to be decided on. Your beingness is perfect. Beingness doesn't need decisions. Everything is fine right now. Everything's perfect. You don't need to make decisions. It's almost like decisions are being made for you. I'll give you an example. Uh I have a Fiat Ducato campervan in which I'm living right now. And by choice, by the way, yeah, so people understand. I'm doing van life. And just a couple of days ago, the motor didn't start. Okay? And I was turning the key and it didn't start. So I was kind of like forced to go see a mechanic. So it was like, okay, next morning we're going to see a mechanic. It's just like you have no other option. So you're being forced to a decision basically. And then I turn the key and the next morning it works perfectly. And then I shut it off again just to test it, turn it again, works perfectly. Shut it off, try again, works perfectly. Well, then I decided against the mechanic. I decided, okay, I don't need a mechanic right now. So the decisions are being made for you a lot of times, and so I go by either the universe tells me something through what happens right now at that very moment, like the seeing a mechanic because your car doesn't work, or from the heart chakra, from the heart space where I feel okay, this I feel a very subtle movement that this is what I should do or not do. So that's how you decide on that. You're not actually deciding, you're feeling it. It's not like a mental decision. And it works perfect. I'm telling you, like I struggled making money my whole life. My whole life. Because I was very convinced that I was going to have it a certain way. And then when I started letting go and I had the spiritual awakening, things started to work suddenly. This worked, then this worked, then this worked. I was like crazy. I mean, at that job, my job requires me to make quick decisions. I'm a product manager. I freeze and unable to answer in meetings. Ah, well, you are you really a product manager, or is it just a job that you do because you've gotten into it? But is it what you really want to do? Because I feel like I'm telling you why. Because let's say I'm doing something that I really enjoy, really, really enjoy. It seems like everything flows from itself. Like for example, when I was a tantra master for 3 4 years, earned a lot of money. I earned a lot of money doing this, and I had the spiritual awakening. I was sitting in silence for an hour, no thoughts, and then I received a message. It was like this subtle message that I'm talking about in the heart space. It says massage women. It was like massage women. It was kind of my internal reaction because how am I going to supposed to massage women for 30 euros like an hour when before I wanted to be a multimillionaire starting an internet company. It's like that's something that's such a big switch change suddenly after the awakening. And I dropped the idea kind of completely first, and then it happened like with Eckhart Tolle. The message came again. It moved again in the heart chakra, very subtle, and it said, so I was completely switching my career and and it said again, you have to massage women. I'm like, okay. And then I went, started a blog. The same day, I bought like something like womenmasseuse.com. So I bought that domain and or a similar one, and I just started writing text. And the interesting thing is, I didn't have to decide on the text. So in jobs that you don't really want to do or where you're pushed to do things, it's kind of like you feel like you're pressed to make decisions. And here it was just flowing. I didn't even have to decide on text. It was just moving by itself. It was flowing. I was channeling the text basically. And I put the blog on the internet, and literally, I'm telling you, literally 2 days after putting, and anybody who knows the internet knows this is very rare. I put the blog on the internet. 2 days later, just 2 days later, the first women started writing me that they want to come to my sessions. And I was like, whoa, that's fast. And from then on, I was just massaging, and I didn't have to make decisions. It was just happening by itself. And this is how it should be. And not you sitting in an interview, in a meeting where you feel being put on the spot and you don't feel comfortable and you can't make fast decisions. Uh, that's not being in the flow. That's you being in an environment that is not conducive to who you are, I would say. That's my guess. And it would be interesting to do a soul plan reading with you, in order to figure out where your real soul plan is. Maybe you're not in your soul plan right now, or working against your soul plan. You're always in your soul plan in a way, but maybe there's an aspect where you're fighting against yourself that you haven't recognized yet. Um, it's amazing how life will find its space. Like, say, if you're in a certain drawer and the drawer is full, you open the drawer and you're in the drawer and you keep a lot of stuff in the drawer. The drawer is full. Only if you empty the drawer and maybe switch even to another drawer, you can start filling it with other things. It's very hard to fill a drawer that's full. So sometimes you need to empty shit and just empty everything, and so there's more space for the universe to fill it with other things. And don't rush to fill it, let the universe fill it. And I'm now at the point where I'm more and more empty, and I'm I've been I've my drawer is kind of empty, and that empty drawer uh is 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 still a long time empty now, but I'm confident the universe will put something in it when it's time. How can you book a reading? Super simple. Telegram. JA_Steele with E at the end. That's my Telegram. Uh, or or Instagram. Instagram. If you have Instagram, you can contact me through Instagram. Um, it's free. Also, I don't charge for the reading, by the way. Uh, the and that's it for now. I'm gonna go back to bed, although it's get up time slowly, but I want to chill a little bit. I'm gonna procrastinate.